One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The Anxiety Guy, Dennis Simsek, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine, a leading authority in generalized anxiety. Dennis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the Anxiety Guy.
Hello, warriors. Welcome to episode number 211. This is the Anxiety Guy podcast, and I'm your humble and grateful host, Dennis Simsek. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a powerful episode, a very inspiring and eye-opening episode. Before I get into it, know that this episode is brought to you by the URL www.theanxietyguy.com. Head on over to this website, get to know my blogs, get to know the previous podcast episodes, as well my anxiety recovery programs at theanxietyguy.com. And what we're discussing today is how the brain and your perceptions cannot be trusted. I mean, how many people out there believe what they feel? How many people out there believe what they think? How many people out there believe what other people tell them? How many people out there believe that their memories are exactly the way they remember them? Too many. We're talking today about consciousness, unconsciousness, and everything related to what you're feeling today, anxiety and emotional distress. Now understand this, all right? The brain combines sensory information coming from the world with its prior expectations and assumptions about how the world is. Now, what happens here is this leads to a best guess situation by the brain at best. And that is based on these expectations as well as prior occurrences. Warrior, you have to understand this. The lesson is that your thoughts, your feelings, and the future images that you run in your mind are interpretations. They are guesses. And many times they are the wrong ones. But because we constantly act on these wrong assumptions, the thoughts, the feelings, they make us believe that they are the truth. They are real. So the more we respect these irrational, negative, catastrophic ideas, the more we act on these fearful emotions, what happens is we are creating an environment where we start to believe that what we think and what we feel is truth, and our behaviors must match these things. Our identity must match these things. How false. What a world of slavery. I lived in this world for years. I was a slave. Just like many of you are slaves today. You're not slaves in the common context as, a ball and chain on your ankle with, the guy kind of slapping you with a whip, that kind of slavery. I'm not talking about that kind of slavery. I'm talking about being a slave to you, being a slave to your conditioning, being a slave to your programming, being a slave to other people. So that's where we are. And we consciously perceive what our brain wants us to consciously perceive. Okay, understand this. When it comes to consciousness, we see things from the angle that our brain wants us to see things if we go about our lives never questioning things. We pay conscious attention to things that are either a threat to us or are important to us. But the question is, why is one thing a threat for one individual compared to it being a neutral object or situation to another person? This, warriors, is where the magic lies, because it comes down to the programs you run at a subconscious level. These programs that manipulate your perceptions and your emotions and your thinking patterns are based around things such as inferiority. Think about it. If you have a subconscious program that's directly connected to you thinking that you are inferior to good feelings, you're not good enough, you don't deserve them, what do you think is going to happen? How do you think you're going to perceive that situation when a person comes to you and compliments you on your progress? What you're going to do is you're going to go, yeah, I'm doing all right, but, there's always a but, isn't there? Right? You simply can't just say, thank you, I deserve these good feelings, can you? Because your subconscious programs prevent you from seeing an opposing perspective to what's been conditioned into you at an early age that you've practiced over the years, that you've watered, and you've grown to be a part of you. I don't think you realize how many limits you place on yourself. I believe that we are limitless as long as we get our subconscious programs out of the freaking way, right? So we have to understand this stuff here. So, another example of this automated way of feeling, thinking, and acting is when a person goes to oppose their anxious state by meditating. They say, I'm going to start meditating. The system rejects this act and any other ones that defies the original anxious way of being if the act is too great a leap. And instead, here's what we need to understand. You have 3 options for change, okay? When we're talking about consciousness, when we're talking about your ability to be aware, people need to understand that just because you're conscious of something doesn't mean you're making the right choices. Because those choices are still based around your subconscious programs. Are you with me? So we have 3 options for change. Number 1 is we progressively introduce change, okay, systematically. For many people out there, they go on Instagram, they go on Facebook, and there's a whole lot of motivation out there. You know, there's all sorts of words and quotes that get your juices running. And for a moment you say, enough is enough. I am done with how I feel. I am done with the results that I'm getting, right? And then you flood yourself with all sorts of fear. You take over. You go about the very thing that you've been avoiding for a long time. You act against your fears. And then something goes wrong. Something goes wrong. Either you become overwhelmed by the situation, the juices stop flowing, there's not any real good adrenaline running through your system, and you begin attaching yourself to an idea of what the heck am I doing right now? This totally goes against my comfort zone. You know that feeling. So here's what I want to suggest. You go from your comfort zone to a place of your learning zone where you step just outside of it. And then you begin learning. You spend some time there. Wow, I never believed. I never even knew that my belief systems were false. I didn't know what I was capable of. Great, you're heading in the right direction. And then after the learning zone, you head to the challenging zone, and you begin challenging yourself. More and more, as every week goes by, you challenge yourself more and more, right? And your confidence grows because you're becoming relentless now. And then what happens is you run into this awakening. Let's call it a spiritual awakening that goes against your core beliefs, that goes against what's been programmed into you. And you have those moments of clarity after you've been challenging yourself. And now you get to a place called revival. You have revived yourself, and you have, in fact, created a new identity. You see how this is a progression, right? But so many people out there want change so fast, and so swiftly that they don't even take the time to realize that they have to, at some point, enjoy this journey, enjoy this transition to becoming the brand new them, instead of just trying to overcome anxiety. I'm going to remind you of this again. We're not here to overcome anxiety. We're here to create a new identity. And there are different parts that come with that identity. So you look at the past you and you say, okay, here are the parts that I don't want. And here are the parts that I do want to keep for my new identity/personality. So the first thing we need to do in order to strengthen our consciousness and to reject our old subconscious programs is to progressively, slowly, gently introduce change to that inner wounded child that still lives within you, that is perceiving the world in a frightening manner. The second thing is to produce changes during shifts from consciousness to unconsciousness and unconsciousness to conscious. The two most important time periods for change is the first and last 15 minutes of the day. I can promise you, I know you, I know your life right now, okay? If you're stuck and you're not moving forward in your life, by the time you're going to sleep, I know that there's a mobile device in your hand. I know it. Or the TV is running in the background, or you're conscious of what you're watching. You are so stimulated. And you say you want change. Or you wake up in the morning, and again, your alarm wasn't set for that 30 minutes that you were going to give to yourself. And so you're frantic, you're running around like crazy, trying to get things in order, getting ready for work, randoming your diet, having no idea, no clue about how your day's going to look. So you are at the mercy of your subconscious programs again, of lack, of vulnerability, of perfectionism. And what happens here is your days become so similar to one another. Every day is the same, with moments, glimpses of hope. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. So if you're the kind of person that's constantly looking for the answer, what do I do? How do I do it? What do I do? Then what you have to do is you have to take charge of the first 15 minutes of the morning and the last 15 minutes before you go to sleep. What does your body need in these moments? What does your mind need in these moments? What do your emotions need? What does your imagination need? Just start doing things that are good for you. Period. Why are we making this so much more complicated than it needs to be within these two time periods? It doesn't have to be. And the third thing you have to do is begin a mental detox by questioning your feelings as well as your current anxious conditioning. This is where we guide rather than react. This is where we provide feedback rather than act on our instincts. The biggest reason why you're here suffering right now is because you've been acting on your initial assumptions and instincts every single time without questioning them and without taking an opposing perspective. I'm a believer that consciousness itself is outside of our control for many people out there who haven't taken enough time to strengthen it through their higher selves. Some people say they are conscious when in fact they're not. They're just at the mercy of what their systems want them to pay attention to in that moment. Warrior, I want to leave you with this, all right? To be conscious means to direct rather than be directed. Okay? This is important. Because until you start directing you and all of you, you're not going to get to that place of freedom. And I can tell you something. The inner work that you're currently doing is worth it. It's worth it. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the transformation that you're on. Enjoy the progress. And please, pay attention to your clarity each and every day, because that clarity is going to lead to more self-love, and that's the very thing that's missing in our lives right now. More self-love for this journey and where we're going. Remember that you are more than anxiety. Have a wonderful day, because you deserve it. Bye-bye.